Hello everyone, this is Mr. Narbertil here. In this video we're going to be taking a look at how to design the house on Onshape so that we can send this file over and it can get put on a laser cutter. The laser cutter is actually going to be cutting out all these pieces for us. After all the pieces have been cut out, it's almost kind of like a puzzle and you're able to glue them all together. So if we look at this example, if I look at it kind of from the front view, this is the example that I have in class. The basic structure of the house is going to necessitate a total of 6 different parts. So if you can imagine, if these were cut out, this would be one side of the house, this would be the second side of the house. We would have a front and a back of the house, and then we would eventually have 2 roof pieces that would get glued on this section of the house here. So this is actually kind of an old file. I have something in here that we wouldn't want. I'm just going to go ahead and go in there and select that to get rid of it before I forget. There it goes, and we can finish that off. Now, with the addition of the extra space that you have available in your design, you are also required to do an additional 2 extra items that are going to be laser cut out and somehow added to your house. So for this instance, I did a gentleman sitting, I did a bird, which I actually glued to the house on a big clear post so it kind of looks like it's flying in the air. And then I did 2 kind of grass sections that I ended up pasting to the sides of the house as well. So this is the same concept as when you did the sticker. You're just going to input an image into Onshape and you trace over it, and wherever you draw on this design is where the laser cutter is going to physically cut it out of the material. Now we can cut this out of a wide range of different things. We could cut it out of cardboard, cardstock. We could do the 1/4-inch plywood that I have. You could even use acrylic, which is like a plastic. But to start things off, I'm going to go back to the dashboard and I am going to hit create and then document like we always do. I'm going to call this the house design. And if you didn't have your cap box on like mine, it's going to look like that. And we're going to hit OK. Now we're going to wait for it to kind of come up with the blank screen that it usually does, and we're going to start the way we always do with the sketch button. I'm going to hit sketch, and we're going to select the front here, and we'll change our view on the view cube to the front. Now, the first thing we need to do is set the boundaries for where the laser cutter is going to go. There are various different sizes for the various materials. So as of right now, our overall dimensions for the laser cutter are going to be 9 inches by 12 inches. So the first step is to take the rectangle tool. You're going to click, and we're going to start from the origin like we normally do, once and then up. I'm going to dimension using the arrow tool here on this side. So it's going to be a total of 9 inches tall. I'm going to zoom out and move down a little bit. And we're going to click on the bottom and then click again to add in that dimension at 12 inches. So again, this rectangle is 9 inches tall, 12 inches long. Now we could spend some time putting everything on the inside of this guideline essentially, but it's going to make our lives a lot easier if we finish this sketch, green little check mark, and we take the sketch tool and we actually click in the middle of this rectangle that we drew. So typically we don't like to have extra sketches in our designs, but in this case what this is going to allow us to do is keep the boundaries of the piece of cardboard or wood or whatever it is that we're using alive and well here so we can see it, but when we draw in everything, it's only going to cut what we draw now. The laser is not going to end up cutting out this rectangle, which for the most part would just be kind of a waste of time. So we have sketch 1 and we have sketch 2, and I'm going to start drawing on the inside of this. Now I'm going to do a very basic design. You can follow along this video and create your house using it, or you can spend the time to create any size house that you wish, as long as it fits within the 9 by 12 area that we drew. So to start off, we're going to click the rectangle tool. We're going to come down. I'm going to start in the corner here. I'm going to click once. I'm going to come up. Doesn't matter if it's perfect or not, because as always, we're going to use the dimension tool to make it perfect. So let's say we wanted this house to be 2 inches tall. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to come out, and I'm going to make it 2 inches and hit enter. And then we could simply click on this line and come down, and it's going to be a total of 4 inches long. So this is one side of the house. We do need an exact same rectangle to cut an additional side of the house. So I'm going to use the rectangle tool again. If I start drawing from this point, it will automatically make it that 2 inches. So I just click once, it's waiting for me to click again. If I come down and I hover my mouse here and I come over and just click again, it's going to allow me to kind of skip a step. We don't have to tell the program that this is 2 inches again because we already know it's exactly 2. We still, however, have to use the dimension tool to come down. We're going to click on this line here and say to the program that is in fact going to be 4 inches. So I'm going to click for enter. So now we have two sides of the house that are exactly the same. We do have to take a look at doing the front and back, which is going to be very, very differently shaped. We're going to start with the rectangle tool again. We can start from this corner if we want, right here. And we're just going to draw kind of a square. It doesn't have to be perfect. Again, we're going to use the dimension tool. Let's say the depth of the house. I'm going to click here and come down. Let's say that that's going to be 2.5 inches, and we'll hit OK. Now, we do have to be careful. We have to make sure that the height of the house, so from here to here, is the same as the height of the house from here to here. So in that case, this line, we're going to come over and dimension. That would also be 2. And we'll wait for a second for that to go. So that's kind of the front of the house, and what we can do is use the line tool to create that kind of triangle effect. So I'm going to use the line tool. I'm going to click once on this point here. I'm going to come up. Now, there is a way to constrain this perfectly in the middle up here without having to dimension all of it. And to do that, now it's waiting for me to click again, right? You can come over and wait until it has this little yellow square. And what that does is it's telling the program I want that exactly in the middle. So if I go up, you can see the dotted line, keeping it in the middle for us. So I could simply just click here, and then the line tool will come back down to this point, and it's perfect. Now, this is the front. We also need a separate back of the house. So I'm going to use the square tool again. I'm going to start it from here. I'm going to kind of hover my mouse here so we don't have to dimension the height again. And I'll click. We do need to dimension this the same as this line here. So that's going to be 2.5 inches. Give that a second. And then we're going to use the line tool again. So if I hit the line tool and I start here, now we can hover our mouse in two different places. I can come over and I can hover it in the middle here. And I can also go back and hover it here. And if I move my mouse back over, now it's perfectly aligned with the other triangle and perfectly aligned with the middle of the square we drew. So if I click there and come down and click here, these two items are exactly the same. Now, we do have to be careful. This is going to cut out one side, one side. If we let the laser cutter just cut these two things out, what you're essentially doing is having the laser cut your roof off, and we don't want that. So we're going to use the trim tool, these little scissors here, and we're going to come down and we're going to click on these lines that we don't want the laser to cut. So there's one here, there's one here, there's one here, and there's one here. So now we have the front, back, and two sides. We are still missing the two roof pieces. So we are going to simply take our rectangle tool, and we can start from this corner and go up like this. Try not to get it set on this 2 inches because then you won't be able to change it. Now, how do we determine how wide the roof has to be? Well, that is determined if we hit the dimension tool by clicking on this inclined line. So if I click once and I come out like this, we can tell that the roof is 1.949. That needs to be the width of our roof. So we're going to click this dimension at 1.949. The roof also needs to be as long as the house is. So in this case, this is the side of our house. This is how long it is. This is 4 inches. So I'm going to make this line 4 inches. Now that's just one of our roofs. We still need an additional roof at 1.949 and 4. So I'm just going to use the square tool. These don't have to be touching each other like I have been. It makes it easier for the laser cutter to do that, but you could draw things kind of wherever you'd like. I'm going to use the dimension tool, and we're going to make this 1.949. Again, this is the other roof piece, and this square, or I'm sorry, this rectangle is going to be 4 inches long. So there we have it. We have the basic shapes. You have one side, two side. You have your front, your back, and two roof pieces. You have a couple different extra things that we have to add in. Each one of your sides of the house has to have some extra feature involved, with the exception of the roof pieces. The roof pieces can be just solid rectangles. For your sides of the houses, you could do some certain things like windows like this. You could do more complicated windows if you're going to draw in a square. And instead of just drawing a line that looks like this, down and down, and then if we hit line tool again and go this way, unfortunately we cannot draw things like this. The laser is going to end up cutting the middle piece, which will look cool for a second, but then it will just cut the outside and this whole thing will pop out just like this. So avoid doing windows that look like this. Instead, what we're going to do is, I'm just going to delete this real quick. If you want to get that window effect a little bit more easily, you can take the rectangle tool and you're just going to draw rectangles that are kind of next to each other. Now obviously you could spend some time making sure that these are spaced out the way that you need to in the right size and they're centered in the side of the house, but I'm just doing it as an example. So you could look up different house or window designs rather and draw those on the side. You could do some more complicated ones. You can even find pictures of complicated windows and put those in. We can also add doors to the side of our house just by adding in a rectangle like this, so on and so forth. So keep in mind that each side of the house has to have doors or windows. Finally, the last required component, you will have extra space up here that won't be used. So this is essentially like free real estate. It's free cardboard, it's free wood, it's free acrylic, whatever it is that you're laser cutting. At this point, you are going to have to add in at least 2 different extra pieces. And we can kind of treat this the same way as we did our sticker design. If we go to Google Images and we look up, let's say, grass, it's always good to put the word silhouette after that and hit enter. And we go to Images, we can maybe find a piece that we'd like to trace for adding into our house. Now, as far as complexity goes, some of these would take absolutely way too long to trace. This would be an insane amount of work. So you're kind of looking for something a little bit more simplistic along these lines. So we could say this one, I believe I used in my example. We can right click and hit Save Image As. And we'll just throw that on the desktop. We'll hit Save. We'll go back to our design. We're going to hit this little arrow here next to the document looking thing. Insert image. You're going to hit import here. Remember, if you don't see import, you need to put your Chromebook in full screen. You're going to find the image that you downloaded, which is, let's see here, there. We'll hit open. Wait for it to upload. We can X out of that. We're going to click on the image that uploaded here, and then you are simply just going to draw into the appropriate size. So here it is. And remember that just because you put a picture here does not mean that it is going to come out exactly how you put it in. Instead, what you need to do is, again, how we did these stickers, is trace over the piece that you put in. In other words, the picture, just like this. Wherever you trace with the spline tool, the line tool, the rectangle tool, any of those things, you will have the laser cutter actually cut that out. So that would be one of the extra pieces, and then you could add in something else that you'd like over here, maybe a tree. You could add in a person. You could add in an animal like a dog or a bird. The creativeness of what you add in for your extra pieces is totally up to you. So when you are all said and done and you have everything traced out and you're ready, you're going to hit this green check mark here. And this is our sketch. Again, we're not extruding anything. This isn't a 3D design. We're just using it for 2D stuff. We're going to come down and we're going to find our sketch 2. And just like we did with the sticker, we're going to right click on it, or you can do the 2-finger tap on your Chromebook. You're going to come down where it says export as DXF. We're going to give it a second. And for your file name, you're going to do your first and last name, and then house design. You're going to make sure that this says DXF. There are 2 choices, and it has to say DXF. Unfortunately, the DWG file will not do anything for you. So DXF, you can use the